From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash and get a free dessert with your meal. By Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. Mention Sports Bash and get a free autograph photo. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Hi again, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Peter Schwartz. Phone number to call here on Sports Bash is 516-465-3990. Make sure you're subscribing to Govs Comedy Club podcast channel on YouTube, and also follow on Facebook, and of course follow Sports Bash Media at all the usual outlets like X/Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Coming up on the show, we'll have the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day and the Living Legends item of the week, but as of right now, we have not received that item of the week, so we probably will have to wait until Thursday to find out what that item of the week is. This segment of Sports Bash is presented by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, where every customer is considered family. The Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Mention Sports Bash and get that absolutely delicious free dessert with your meal. Welcome to the show, everybody. Again, happy Tuesday with you until 2 o'clock live. If you miss any part of the show, it'll be archived on YouTube and Facebook on Governor's Comedy Club podcast after the show. Today is a very special day here on the program. So, as you know, a couple of months ago, we started this new thing on the show called Friends of Peter, and we shortened it to FOP. And we had some really good FOPs so far on the show. We had Amy McGorry, formerly of News 12, and she's now, I don't know if people saw this on social media. Tony, I don't know if you caught this.
I did.
But Amy is now freelancing for Newsday TV. So we congratulate our friend Amy McGorry on moving over to Newsday TV, and we wish her the best. And maybe we'll have her back in at some point. She added so much that day, so much excitement, so much energy. We'll bring her back in. We're working on some other FOPs that I think will knock your socks off when we do bring these people in. But today, and also we had Sean Winters from Winters Bros came in. We had an emergency FOP one day because my younger son Jared came with me to do the show, and we just said, you know what, we'll just make Jared the FOP, and he was a FOP that day. And then most recently we had John from John's Crazy Socks and his father Mark, John and Mark Cronin. They were in today. This guy has been bothering me for months. He goes, I got to come in and do that show with you. I am an FOP, and people around the New York area, you know this guy. He's a frequent phone caller on WFAN, where I also work. I'm sure he's probably called ESPN Radio before as well. I used to work there many years ago. And, of course, he has been one of the most loyal followers of this program. He called into the show when we did it on LI News Radio at the airport, and he's been calling just about every show here. You know him as Rob from Lake Success, but he has a real name. His name is Rob Freed, and we finally made this happen. And you're in here in the studio in the show. Welcome.
Peter, first of all, I want to thank you very, very much.
Now, you did not, one thing, we're off on the wrong foot here. You did not ask for permission if you could wear that Red Sox hat.
Can I wear the Red Sox hat?
It's okay. I was busting your chops.
Yeah,
there you go.
And that's a whole other story, how I became a Red Sox fan, and we'll get
into it a little bit later on. But I mean, we've been trying to work this day out for a long time, and most people know of you from calling in on the shows, and you've got great takes on all the different sports. But for people who don't know, and I didn't know this until we started connecting on social media, but you are an avid runner. You've run marathons. You're wearing a medal around. You've got the Adelphi track and field shirt on. So I guess let's start with that, about your experience running. You're in great shape.
Thank you.
For 25 years old, I think you look like you're in great shape. By the way, Was it yesterday or
Yesterday,
tomorrow?
it was yesterday.
Yesterday is Rob's birthday, so we have you here a day after
And yes.
your 25th birthday. So
That's right.
thank you very much.
You've been way too kind. 64 years old, actually.
64. Wasn't there a Beatles song with 64 in it?
It's,
Mr. Beatles over there with the Beatles Met shirt?
64.
When I'm 64, wasn't that a Beatles song?
It was a great Beatles
It was a
song.
Beatles song. When I'm 64, so now
There it is.
there it is. Tony, quick on the gun.
Tony,
right there.
thank
How
you.
about that? This is why he's the highest paid producer in the podcast business, right? There you go. Sure, let's go with that. So, how did you get into running? And are you still doing it?
Oh, God, I run every single day.
Every day?
Every single day. So,
I run to the bathroom every day.
and that's okay.
I don't run to the bathroom.
Here's pretty much, it all started from being an athlete as a kid.
Yeah.
I played soccer in high school. I was an ice hockey player as well in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 year, my senior year, I actually tore my medial collateral ligament playing soccer. Yeah. And after, coming out of the cast in my senior year, my leg was completely kind of like stiff, and I had to rehab it.
Right.
And the orthopedist said to me, it was the team doctor for the Giants at the time, and I think he just recently retired, Russ Warren. He said
I've heard that name, yeah.
He said to me, listen, you could start running and, try to build up the quadricep muscles. And within no time, I got hooked, realized I had a talent. And I started really officially running in June, where it was a regular thing, in June of 1980.
Wow.
So I'm in my 45th
so
year.
right after the Islanders won their first Stanley
Well,
Cup,
I remember when they won that cup, and
Yes, me too.
on that Saturday afternoon, and
12-year-old Peter was having a conniption when that happened.
it was about 5:00 in the afternoon
Yeah,
too.
yes,
It was on national television.
Yes, CBS television,
They
afternoon game.
showed the game, and I watched it on television, and remember the honking of the horns and all of that stuff. But that's a whole other story. But what happened
Rob's
was
a Ranger fan, by the way.
yes,
Let's get that out in the open. So, but he's been nice. He has not talked. He has not mentioned at all last night or last week.
Yeah, listen, the islands have history. They have respect on
Yeah.
Long Island, which is where I grew up. So I'm originally from the South Shore. I went to Lawrence High School, and Lyle Alzado came out of that school. In
Yes.
fact, Evan Roberts came out of that school
Yes.
many, many years later. But when I started to run, I realized very quickly I have a talent at this. I mean,
Yeah.
in no time. So I initially started out, I went to Adelphi University, and initially I wanted to be a phys ed teacher.
And they won the national championship in college lacrosse last year.
They were great in lacrosse back then, too.
My good friend, who former New York Saint, when I was the radio announcer for the Saints, is now the head coach, the men's head coach at Adelphi, Gordon Purdy.
Okay.
And so congratulations again to all of them. I got a chance to go in and see the trophy. The
it-
trophy is heavy.
Yeah, they're big. Those
Even
NCAA
at Division II, that trophy was
It's the same
unbelievably heavy.
trophy.
It is. I came into his office. We did a video interview. We did a Sports Bash Spotlight where I went in there and did an interview with him. And he said, "Hey, would you like to hold the trophy?" I mean, and I've held the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
The Stanley Cup is hollow inside. It's very, very light. So when you see people raising the Stanley Cup over their head,
I didn't know that.
and people say, "How is it so? How do they just lift it up?" And like it's very, very light. I've held the Stanley Cup. In fact, maybe during commercial break, I'll pull up a picture of me holding the cup.
Excellent.
And we'll see if we can get that on the air. But yeah, so this college lacrosse NCAA trophy, it was like solid oak. I mean, I literally, I lifted it up. I lifted it up, Rob. Note,
and they're heavy.
It was hurting my arms.
Yeah,
I had to put it down. I don't know how those players lifted it after they won it.
But yeah, when I was there, we were Division I in soccer as well as lacrosse. They had some great programs, and ESPN, I remember, was even broadcasting those games way back in the early '80s. But I got on the track team, and I initially started out as a walk-on, and I said, what, I want to. I'm in pretty good shape. Let's see how far I can progress with this.
Yeah.
Within a year, I got a scholarship.
Wow.
Because my talent excelled. I exploded.
So what events
I started out really running distance cross country, the 5,000, which is 3.1 miles,
right?
The mile, and the 10,000. And within 2 years of starting running, in 1980. I entered the New York City Marathon in the middle of cross country, and I have the picture here, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I ran 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Now,
which
what's the general winning time?
the winning time at that time, I believe, was Alberto Salazar. Salazar won that year. He ran 2:09. I was
you're
not
not far. That's
yeah,
not
no.
far off.
Well,
That's incredible.
you're talking 6-minute miles. You're talking. I was 338th in the whole race.
Takes me 6 minutes to get out of bed in the morning.
But I mean, I was already a college runner.
Right.
I was running very, very quick times at the time, and I just entered this race, and I qualified for the Boston Marathon, and you had to run a 2 hour and 50-minute marathon back then
To qualify.
just to get in, get a number. It wasn't like anybody could run. You had to run 2 hours, which for people
I
that
know from other people who have run, like it's not just you could just say, hey, I want to run the marathon.
New York
you
can,
go
but,
through. Well, you can't. You could. So anybody can just enter the marathon and
you
run.
could try to get in.
I thought there was a whole like paperwork.
Oh, there's
process.
a process for New York City now because there's so many people that want to run it.
Yeah.
You know, but back in the day, it was open pretty much to anybody. But Boston, you had to run a 2 hour and 50-minute, which is 6 minutes and 30 seconds a mile. Now think about that. That's for 26 miles in a row.
That's
you
crazy.
4 laps on a track.
And you had no problem doing this.
My best time was 2:35.
Wow, jeez.
And I was one of the top runners in the metropolitan area.
Now, being from New York, is it more of a thrill running through the streets of New York or running through the streets of Boston?
That's a great question. The Boston Marathon is the common man Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay. It's where everybody wants to qualify and get to run it. New York to me is my favorite race. It's home. It's Frank Sinatra. It's
Right.
New York. You're running on the Verrazano Bridge. You're running
Right.
through all the boroughs, and the excitement and the people that come out to watch it.
I love watching the fans lining the
Oh,
streets.
there's
And
a million people-
they
millions
hand
of people.
everybody cups of
Cups
water.
of water.
Did you ever drop the water? Or did you get it all the
Well,
time?
there's a whole technique to that. Most
Yeah,
of the
there's a
time,
technique. I like this.
most of the time I'm running, I'm just grabbing the water, drinking, and throwing it. Okay, and at every stop early on, you want to drink because it's you're out there for a long time.
Right.
And
Have you peed in your pants? It's
no,
okay.
no,
you did.
no.
I got to imagine.
Let me put it this way,
running
Peter.
26 miles.
Peter, let me put it this way. There's a story, but I will not repeat it. I'll tell you privately. But no, it's a story that it's historic, and I cannot repeat it on the air.
Okay.
But there was an incident, but not in the Boston Marathon.
Well, I got to tell you. So there was one. So right after 9/11, when Yankees are in the World Series
Right.
and marathon is coming up, and so I'm getting ready. It's a Sunday, marathon day, and a week out of it, I knew I was covering the Giants were playing at the time the Redskins.
Okay.
That Sunday at Giant Stadium.
Okay.
So I'm working at ESPN Radio at the time. And so the powers that be at ESPN Radio come to me and they say, listen, we know you're covering the Giant game Sunday, but what we would like you to do is we would like you to host a 1-hour show from the start
Right.
of the New York City Marathon.
So you went there then?
At the Verrazano Bridge, right? So I'm like, look at this. Look at me. Do you think I know anything about running? Like, why are you asking me to host a show? Like, and they're like, no, you're going to be hosting the show with a marathon expert. There was that lady from the New York Roadrunners Club, and I can't remember her name. She was an avid runner, and she was involved with the New York Roadrunners Club, and I'm going to look it up. What her name was, but she did a lot of the broadcasting around the New York Roadrunners Club and the marathons. She's going to do the show with you. So I'm like, okay. So I start doing research and everything like that. She calls me up and we have a great conversation on the phone. And she says, I just want to let you know that when we do the show, Mayor Giuliani is going to be there at the start. He's coming on the show.
That's awesome.
Now remember, we're in the middle of the Yankees-Arizona World Series. He's going back and forth between New York and Arizona. He was at Game 6 the night before, flew back overnight to be there at the start of the
on the bridge
at the bridge. Came on our show. As soon as it was over, he got back on a plane, went back to Arizona for Game 7, which was that night. It was incredible. But the reason I bring this whole thing up is it was an overcast day. And I learned that that's actually not bad for the runners. Like you don't want it to be.
Yeah, you want it to be cool. You want to be in the 50s.
You want it to be like in the 50s, which was like that. So I take the Long Island Railroad into the city. I go to the headquarters, the hotel headquarters for the marathon. They give you a media shuttle bus that takes you to the start. I wound up. Somebody else was going to New Jersey afterward from ESPN. They were going to drop me off at the Meadowlands. I got a ride home from another reporter. We get there to the start. and the first thing I noticed was the stench.
Okay.
The first thing I noticed was the stench because there's no other places to go to the bathroom, so everybody is basically taking care of business.
They're doing their thing, right?
They're taking care of business, or whatever, or that park is there in
right
in
by the
Staten Island.
right the fort where the house you.
Yes. So I noticed. I witnessed some people taking care of their business over in the corners and everything. The stench was something that struck me, but I wound up getting through the whole show. My partner, and I got to remember what her name is. It's bothering me. I can't remember what the lady's name was, and you'll have
I'll know.
You'll have to know what it is. I'm
going
to look it up, and I can't remember what her name was. But you would hear her on all of the commercials about running and everything like that. But yeah, so that's what struck me about the start of the marathon. But I got through the show. I was able to.
You can do it. You're a professional. You can do it.
Not that I can give anybody tips on how to run.
Right, but
that's where you
can broadcast. You can,
right. So how many New York City marathons have you run?
I've done, I think 7 or 8 New Yorks. I've done 10 Bostons.
Yeah. You didn't pull a Rosie Ruiz and take a taxi.
No. This is very. I mean, the reality is that a lot of people know me because I run right now. I run for Central Park.
But you remember that story, that whole thing when it wasn't Rosie
Rosie,
Ruiz?
that was in 1980, the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, and
she cheated.
She basically got into it. You know the story, Tony, right? Yeah. So she got into the story was she kind of like veered off somewhere.
And she took a subway. She took one of the trains down to like the 24-mile mark, and she comes across the finish line. And
you didn't know this story?
I know the story. I just didn't know.
Yeah, no. She took one. There's like a subway line down there, and she jumped off at like 24 miles, just basically around the last 2 miles, and the real winner got kind of messed up because she didn't have an opportunity to get
they wound up stripping her of the title.
They had to because they realized. I remember Bill Rogers was asking her questions, and he's like, "What? This woman's not a runner, you know."
My FOP today in studio, friend of Peter, is Rob from Lake Success, otherwise known as, because most people know you as Rob from Lake Success, but his real name is Rob Freed, and he's a tremendous Long Island sports fan, avid runner, and he's also a big memorabilia collector, and we're going to get into it in the next segment, but just to give everybody a little taste before we go to the first break of the show. Not that we want to. We'll show it off in the next segment.
Okay.
How did you get into?
That's a great thing because
we'll tease everybody with that.
Memorabilia to me. Actually, the real memorabilia that I still love is my personal memorabilia, like anything I've done. My newspaper clips. I've been in a million newspapers. I've had articles written about me. I've been on TV many times. But to me, it's about going to a game and buying the program and saving your ticket stubs.
Right.
So every time I went to a game, since I'm a little kid, I would do that. And I amassed a collection. And then I said, you know what? I want to collect programs of historic events.
Right.
Because it's history. I'm a real history buff.
Right.
And I amassed a tremendous collection of programs and tickets. You know, people think it's geeky. You know, now it's more or less.
You're preaching to the choir, right? Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a passion. And what I did was I wanted to collect every New York team's first game ever.
Wow.
And I was able to do it. And I have a lot of them here today.
That's amazing.
And stuff that you're never going to see in one setting ever again.
And we'll touch on this more when we come back after we take a break in a minute or so here. But I would say my sports memorabilia collection. The great thing about sports memorabilia to me is that you can cater your collection to however you want.
Exactly.
You could have a collection that's worth millions of dollars, but it doesn't have any sentimental value. Like a lot of things that I have in my collection and my kids have assembled. My wife just wonders, like, what does she do with it? You know, at some point, like when if the day ever comes that she has to make a decision on what to do with it. So the kids are going to get it. You know, we're trying to get rid of some of it because we have an overload in our house of a lot of stuff. But a lot of the things that I've collected over the years have tremendous sentimental value. And I would sooner keep those things than stuff that's worth money. Like I would, at some point, I'm going to make the decision to sell things that it's got no meaning. Like when I was a little kid, and I knew you were coming in. I'll find the picture of it. When I was a little kid, my grandpa Dave, gave me a Yankees pennant, an old felt Yankees
from
pennant.
What, like the 50s?
I think it was from the 20s.
Wow!
It said it's a felt Yankees pennant. I'll show you a picture of it. It's a felt Yankees
That's
pennant
got
that
some worth
says,
to it.
has a caricature of Yankee Stadium on it, says American League Champ. So I'm making the assumption that he bought it at a World Series game at Yankee Stadium. And he gave it to me when I was a little kid, and I still have it. I have no interest in ever selling it. Now, my wife and my kids are Met fans, but I'm handing that down to my kids afterward. I'm like, you do what you want. If I'm long gone, you do what you want with it, but I'll never get rid of it. Now, one thing I would like to get rid of, if it was for the right price, it has a little bit of sentimental value, is I have a Wayne Gretzky rookie card.
That's probably worth some.
Now, it's got a little crease down the middle of it, and I've gotten it appraised at like $700 or $800, even in the condition that it's in. And I've met Wayne Gretzky a few times, so part of me is like, I'll just hold on to it. But those are the kind of things, like if you don't have sentimental value for it, I think it'll be easier to part with it.
Right.
So we're going to talk more about Rob from Lake Success, Rob Freed's collection of sports memorabilia. He's brought some incredible items into show. We're going to get into the teams in the New York market, get his thoughts, because when you hear him call sports radio shows, he has wonderful takes on everything. And also, I'm going to tell you something. This guy, he is a mensch, because he did something for me and my family that not many people would do. Not many people in our family did this, but he did this for us back in September. We're going to talk to him about that when we come back. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles is the best place to find autographed entertainment and sports memorabilia. We guarantee the authenticity of each and every item in our shop to provide you with quality collectibles anytime you browse our inventory. Our memorabilia includes autographed photos, sports equipment, jerseys, hats, and other paraphernalia from current athletes and legendary sports stars. If you prefer the entertainment industry, we have signed posters, albums, and photographs from classic movie stars and today's celebrities. To give back to our community, we participate in fundraising auctions for local charities. Call us today to request a specific autograph, find a special gift for someone else, or schedule an event. Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. I'm Peter Schwartz. We're also brought to you by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service here on Long Island. It is FOP Day here on the show. Rob from Lake Success, otherwise known as Rob Freed, an avid runner, but also an avid sports memorabilia collector, is on the show with us right now. There's a picture that we just saw on the show of me with the Stanley Cup. I have to find the picture of me holding the Stanley Cup, but that was at the ESPN 25. When the ESPN turned 25 years old, they had an event at the ESPN Zone, the old ESPN Zone in Times Square. But I have some pictures of me holding the Stanley Cup that I'll find. But in any event, before I forget, my son Bradley made his college football debut.
Right, I remember that.
He's at Western Connecticut State University, and he made his debut. His first game of the season was ironically here on Long Island against the Merchant Marine Academy. And you were very, very nice enough. You heard about it on social media, and there you are in the stands at the Merchant Marine Academy, watching Bradley play his first game.
When you mentioned it on the air that he was going to be playing up in Connecticut, and I said, you know what, they're playing the Merchant Marine, which is, I live in Lake Success, which is, the Merchant Marine Academy is down North Great Neck, so it's about a couple miles away. And I said, I've been there many times, the academy, and I said, you know what, it's a great place. And I said, wow, it's as close as get to actually see something like this.
And I'm a big sap, right? So Bradley wasn't supposed to play that day.
And
he was not a starter out of training camp because he got there so late, and he was the backup long snapper. And as it turns out, stuff happened in the game, and the coach comes up to him and says, "You're going in." And he looks up at us, gives like a thumbs up, and my wife knew that I was going to lose it. My wife Cheryl, like she brought Kleenex in her bag and everything like that. And I watched him warm up, and I lost it. And I knew the first time I saw him play at a college, because that's his dream. Right. His dream was to play college football, and I lost it. I did. I fully admit that I was a complete sap that day.
And I think it's a wonderful thing to.
And then he played the rest of the season. I mean, he came in, and I didn't have that same like sappiness because once he started playing, like there was no surprise. He was playing.
I always say, being I was a college athlete and I competed at a very high level. In college as well as running Boston Marathons and stuff. And I've been to the Maccabee Games, which is, if people don't know what that is, that's the Jewish Olympics. I've represented our country 4 times, and I won a gold medal and a silver medal. So I've done some pretty international stuff as well.
Oh yeah,
which is really cool. But before we get into the real sports memorabilia, I want to just. This is important to me because this is my real and personal memorabilia. This is a picture. I hope I'm showing it at the camera.
Is he holding it up in a good
spot? This is my New York City first marathon, 2 hours and 38 minutes. And, there's a picture of me. This took 2 months to get. Nowadays,
who took that picture?
This was actually taken by, I guess, the noospapers. They were on top of the like a barricade.
So they would get a picture of everybody crossing
Everybody, of course. But if you see, I was so fast, I'm all alone. And you got the time right up there of 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean, this picture has been sitting in my house for, I don't know, over 43 years.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's unbelievable.
So you have to tell me that was your first.
This was my first New York City.
So you have to tell me, because listen, everybody does something in life for the first time, and you have that sense of accomplishment, the emotion. Tell us what that was like. Crossing the finish line for the first time at the New York City Marathon.
I knew that particular morning I wrote down what I thought I was going to run, and I came within like 20 seconds. I knew what kind of shape I was in, and I just was running so well. And I remember running in the park, and I was some people were screaming. I caught a friend of mine. He was ahead of me, and I said, "Come on, Bill! Come on, Bill!" He's from Long Beach, this guy, and he goes, "Oh, Robbie, I'm destroyed." He goes, "Come on, we'll finish together." And the fans on the streets were screaming, "Look at that young kid! He's so young, and he's way up there in top lead." And one of the other things, I saved all of my numbers.
How about that? Now, see,
this is my first Boston Marathon number.
Can I see that?
Yeah, this is my first.
I promise I won't rip it. I just want to look at it.
No, rip it. That's 45 years old.
No, I'm holding it.
It's okay.
I'm holding this like I would hold a baby.
But every marathon, and I knew to save it. I knew to save all of these things. I mean, that's from my first one in 1983. I was seated 933 in the whole. Wow. So I knew as a kid, even when I went into regular memorabilia, that this was important to me to save these things, the pictures and newspaper clippings, and I've been on TV many times. So it's not about me. It's just like I've accomplished a lot of really cool things. I've had more than 15 minutes of fame.
Absolutely, and it's unbelievable. Look, my kids have saved.
And they should tell Bradley to save everything.
Well, Jared too. Jared's got stuff from hockey, like the first goal he scored. He's got the ball, and he went to Long Island Ducks baseball camp a couple of years ago and hit a home run. Right. And so he's got the ball. So you save all that stuff out of it. Ticket stubs, everything. If you.
It's something that I don't know. I feel it's important to me. For me, what I want to collect now, because I'm getting older, every time I run a race, take all the pictures and the finish line shots, because I like seeing history, I like to go back and look at myself.
Absolutely. Let's get it. So
we got to get into this.
So, yes. So we have a half an hour left on the show, and we got to there's a lot of stuff still to cover. We got some business to take care of.
Okay.
So, like myself, Rob is an avid sports memorabilia collector. He has brought in some incredible pieces from his collection. Let's start with this Yankees program.
Well, now for them to see? What should I be showing?
Right in front of you is good. Right in front of you, exactly where you are.
What I'm holding in my hand is one of the rarest programs in the world. This is an opening day program from the original Yankee Stadium, dated October 18th, 1923. It's in lousy shape because it's,
Doesn't matter. It's the
sitting around, but there's
coolest
only a
things I've ever
handful of these that come up on the market.
What do we think the parking problem was like that day at
Oh,
the stadium?
they had 70,000 people.
All those Model Ts, you see the picture from opening day, all the Model Ts. Do you think they had trouble parking their car that day?
But there's only a handful of these that exist because people saved them or they got thrown out. And it's just an amazing, fabulous historical item, and any Yankee fan. I'm not a Yankee fan, as you see. I'm a Red Sox fan.
Well, he gets 10 demerits.
But wait a minute. I have to show something. On top of that, I have an opening day program to Fenway Park.
Wow, there you go.
So Fenway Park had a second program that was
I have to tell you, even as a Yankee fan, I've been to Fenway Park a handful of times.
Oh, it's unbelievable, right?
I can't wait. My family is absolutely eager to go. We're going to try and find. I think the way to do this is because
you got to go to Fenway.
My wife and kids,
a Yankee game.
So as you know, my wife and kids are Met fans. I'm a Yankee fan, so we're trying.
The Mets are playing up there this year.
Well, we could do that. I've seen the Yankees play there, so I don't mind going to see a Mets Red Sox game.
Right.
The best way to do it for all of us to enjoy it would probably be just the Red Sox against some random team. Because then this way you can walk around the ballpark and not worry about missing a pitch or two. But the Mets are playing the Red Sox.
I think they're playing this up there this year.
Maybe that's a Schwartz family vacation during the season.
I became a Red Sox fan because of the Boston Marathon in '83. The Red Sox play 11 o'clock on Patriots Day.
Yes, Patriots Day.
And what happens is when the game unloads, they all come out and watch the runners, and it's a big event. So I've been to
Fenway is great. Fenway is just
it's the ultimate going back in time. Now,
and then you want to get some clam chowder at Cask and Flask outside. Flask and Kagan.
You feel like you're going back in history when you walk into
absolutely.
Now this to me, my favorite.
This one is big because it's screwed down in a frame.
Well, this is my favorite team also in sports. I'm a Giant fan. And
Giants football.
Giants football. And this particular program is extremely, I don't even know if the Maras own this. This is the actual.
If the Maras are watching, let us know.
Well,
maybe you can make Rob an offer for it.
The first program at home on October 18th, 1925 against the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. So the crazy thing about this program is the day before.
Am I allowed to take a look at that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
The day before on Saturday, they look at the condition of that thing. It's immaculate.
So it's New York Football Giants versus Yellow Jackets.
That was a Frankfurt. They were a Philadelphia-based team.
The Polo Grounds, October 18th, 1925. New York All Collegians.
That's what they were called. They called themselves the New York All Collegians. That was the original name of the Giants.
Member of the National Professional Football League. And how about this? What do you think the price of this was? If you bought it then, Tony, usually pretty good.
Back then?
Yeah. How much is this program?
10 cents.
15 cents. 15 cents.
It's just.
And of course, a cigarette ad, which you don't see anymore.
To me, this is as far as a piece, an item for me. This is priceless to me. Now with the Knicks. And you see, now
the Knicks are a big story now.
Now you've seen the first Giants game ever in New York.
Right.
You've seen the opener to Yankee Stadium. So I made a lifetime of hunting these things down. This is probably the most beautiful program ever made.
I should ask, because to have this kind of hobby, you have to have a few bucks for. What did you do for a living?
I'm a podiatrist, a foot doctor. So I mean, that was I started out as a phys ed teacher. I taught in the city, and then I became a podiatrist.
What's the best solution for an ingrown toenail?
You got to get it removed.
Yeah, I've gotten it removed several times, and it keeps growing back.
There's a permanent way to do it, but we could talk about
that.
This to me.
No, the whole foot. No, I don't want. No, I've had that procedure done to my big toes multiple times in my life, and it keeps coming back.
Yeah, the guy. There's a way to do it to permanently. It shouldn't come back.
And let me tell you something.
And they're painful.
It's flipping painful.
It is painful. It could be a painful problem.
Yeah.
Okay, this program to me. The Knickerbockers started their very first. They opened the NBA, which was originally called the BAA back then, in 1946. They played in Toronto.
So people forget
the Toronto
had a team.
Huskies was a team, and they played November 1. but this is the original opener at Madison Square Garden, and this program...
The original Madison Square Garden.
Right, this is on 48th Street. This particular program, I love the cover because people don't even know what a Knickerbocker is. It's a Dutch. It's New York. It's Dutch.
Right.
They were founded by the Dutch.
People ask me all the time, and I don't
So
know.
a guy looks like Ben Franklin, but he's just a Dutch guy. This, to me, is probably the most gorgeous art program, I mean, in my opinion, because you see a baby Nick sitting on a Knickerbocker on his shoulder, and it says first year, and they played a team called the Chicago Stags back then.
25 cents for this program.
I just think the Knicks were really cool. The Garden was great because they made new programs every single night.
I see, this is interesting because as the general manager now of the New York Dragons, one of my responsibilities is to produce a program for all 4 of our home games. So the plan is we're going to have a different cover and a different middle 4 pages for all 4 games. So we want people to buy the program every time they come, because then it helps out my bottom line too.
Sure.
Right? There you go. Businessman now.
Isn't that a beautiful cover, though?
This is unbelievable.
The art cover.
I've never seen this. I literally have never seen...
There's only a handful in the world.
And how about this? This date was November 11th, 1946, which just happens to obviously be Veterans Day, but it's also my brother's birthday, November 11th. So first year, it's a beautiful cover. And, I've always loved the... Even though
the artwork's amazing.
As a Yankee fan, I searched and I did find a first-year Mets yearbook, 1962.
That's a great piece.
And the reason why I wanted it was because I loved the baby in the diaper on the cover. So this actually hits a little home here because you've got a young child on top of the Knickerbocker. But I love that. That's something I know my kids are going to be excited to get, and my wife too, because it's the first Mets yearbook. You didn't happen to bring that with you.
I don't. I have it at home,
Yeah.
but it's there was a famous artist who wrote those. Yes. He used to work for the Daily News, I believe. He did like the bums and all of that. Now
let's get into some hockey. How about some hockey?
Now, but this piece right here is let's see if this is it right here. Okay,
that's the Mets program.
I have the very first Mets program.
The first Mets. How about this? Tony's a huge Mets fan.
And the ticket stub is in here. I'm not going to obviously open it up, but there's game one. There's a ticket that was scored and actually put in there.
I know Tony's going to want to take a look at that.
So, this is really a cool piece because it has the ticket in there from game one at the Polo Grounds, and something that I also think is just an important piece of New York. See, you're seeing a lot of firsts here. So
this is
Tony
unbelievable. So 15 cents. And it was Flushing Meadows Stadium, new 1963 home of the New
that was at
York
the Polo Grounds. They played at the Polo Grounds the first 2 years.
Year. But
they said
the
picture of
the pictures got flushed. They didn't name it Shea Stadium yet. Here, right. Can Tony hold on to it?
Sure, absolutely.
Tony, I know Tony's.
Now we're talking hockey.
Chomping at the bit.
You're looking at here, way back in the Garden. The original team in the Garden was a team called the New York Americans.
Yes, and they were the New York Rovers too.
Well, that was in the 40s.
That was in the 40s.
They were more of a minor league team.
Yeah.
The first NHL team was not the Rangers. It was a team called the New York Americans.
Now that logo looks a little bit like the Ranger logo now.
Yes, because now this particular
with the diagonal name on it
is the 1926 season, and this is the first Rangers game in their history. They played the Montreal Maroons.
I don't want to touch that one.
This, to me, is...
I have no interest in touching it.
It was in November, I think it was November 16th or whatever. I'll have to pull it open up. But this is the first New York Rangers. Boomer would go crazy. If he saw it. Boomer's eyes, he'd probably rip it out of my hands, knowing him. But
we might have to clip this and
this is absolutely... and the Garden... They made they made like media guides.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was really, they were really high tech.
Yeah.
They were really way ahead of their time, getting into the Garden.
Now look, I see that giant program there with the Yankee Stadium facade. Can I see that one?
This one is, and this is really cool because this is a program from the Giants 1956 when they won the championship. They won. That was the last NFL championship.
Now, the interesting thing with this, and Tony, you can look at it too, is that logo. The Giants brought that logo back not long ago to kind of be an alternate logo for the New York.
Well, this was
Giants.
the first year they went to Yankee Stadium. They were playing in the Polo Grounds.
Yes,
and then the Giants gave them the opportunity. But this is really cool. This is actual pieces of the goalpost
Oh,
Someone ran on the field. They ripped it. This is the goal from 1956. That's the goal.
So wait, what happened to the goalpost?
Well, after the game was over at the
Polo.
No, this is Yankee Stadium.
Oh, Yankee Stadium.
After the game, people went on the field and they ripped it down and they pulled it apart. So that's wood chips from the actual
wood chips from the
the goalposts. They were made of like stanchions. It was like
I'm telling you, this may be the greatest sports radio show I've ever done.
Well, you see things you're never going to see.
Well, maybe I should. I had Ken Morrow on last week.
No, so Ken Morrow. And by the way, I have stuff from him from the Olympics as well. But this is really cool because I thought, knowing that.
By the way, here is the official Tony. We may be going overtime alert.
Okay, I know. I brought it up for a second. This is the opening day in Fenway Park in the 30s.
I don't want to touch that one.
But actually, the original building was in 1914,
yes.
and then there was a fire.
There was a fire. Yeah, I was about to say. I remember there being a fire.
They made a special opening day.
Yeah.
And being a Red Sox fan, this is something dear to my heart. I'm just going to move over so you can.
Rob from Lake Success, bring it in. He's got to go into his bag of tricks. This has been unbelievable. Rob is an avid runner, an avid phone caller, and he is our FOP today here on Sports Bash, friend of Peter. He's been calling shows that I've done for years, shows I fill in for on WFAN, and he's been one of the great listeners and viewers of Sports Bash since we started back the old show at LI News Radio. So he has been a big part, and we have been trying to plan this. Tony, you have the most confused look on your face looking over at the stuff he's pulling out of his bag.
I'm just amazed at all this stuff.
It's amazing. Well, you should see my house, too. Not the amazing, I see something that I see something.
I'm back with it, Peter. Okay,
I see something.
Right here, what I want to show for the Jet fans.
Yes.
This is the very first game in 1960. It rained at the Polo Grounds. The Titans, which were the original Jets,
yes, I have
played
a Titans
the Buffalo
jersey.
Bills, and this is their very first game in their history. There's a little water stain on it because it rained. There's a ticket in here.
Yeah.
Which obviously we're not going to open. But I got the ticket stub. I got the program. You could look at that.
Oh my God! Look at this.
Really cool. It's really fascinating stuff.
Buffalo Bills, Boston Patriots, Denver Broncos, Houston Oilers, Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers, which they are again now, which is just absolutely awful. They should still be in San Diego, and the Dallas Texans.
Dallas, Texas, what became the Kansas City Chiefs, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
That is the Kansas City Chiefs.
There we go.
Another one for you.
Sammy Baugh was the head coach.
For you Jet fans.
Oh my God! Look at this. I thought I saw that.
They're never going to win another one. As a Giant fan and a Jet hater, they are cursed.
Angry enough as it is about this.
I got Don Maynard's autograph on here. Matt Snell.
Joe Willie?
I can't even. No, I don't have Joe Willie. And I'm not even an autograph collector. This was in Miami. This was at the and I was at the Mud Bowl. I went to the Mud Bowl.
You have no idea how much I cried that day.
You're doing 14-0. It was just an unbelievable. To get to go, I've been to a couple. I went to the Giant 49er game in 11, which was just unbelievable. Yeah. Take a look at that.
Oh
that
my
is
God,
a
look at this.
Jet Super Bowl program.
This is again, the one and only.
Well, for you guys.
Yeah, well, for you
I got 4.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
I got 4. While Peter's looking at that, Super Bowl 1 didn't even sell out. And here
the only Super Bowl that did not sell out.
AFL, NFL.
And it was the only Super Bowl also that was televised by 2 different networks.
That is correct. Oh. Yeah. It was on and because they just. But this is actually really cool because they didn't set. There's a number of them floating around. But this is an interesting cover, and it's the very first Super Bowl program. Game 1 at the Los Angeles Coliseum. I think they had 60,000 people there.
And I was at the LA Coliseum once before for a Jet Raider game in
was that the playoffs? Did you go to the playoffs?
No, 1993. Okay. That was the game that the Jets got screwed by the officials with the clock at the end. Okay. Vince Evans with a late touchdown. Boomer Esiason played in that game and played very, very well, but then the Jets got screwed by the officials at the end. This is unbelievable. What a beautiful program.
It's not in the best of shape, but it's still something that's
listen,
sometimes
beggars can't be choosers, Rob?
Sometimes you just got, you just kind of get what what you can get. I mean, at this particular point. I got some other.
Now, do you want to hold some Islander stuff until we come back from the second break? I know you brought some Islander stuff in. We'll take a break. So we've got more to come with Rob from Lake Success, with more memorabilia. We want to get into what's going on in the world of sports right now with him too, but a little bit more on the memorabilia side when we come back. We've got the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. All of that is coming up when we come back right after this.
Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved.
Welcome back to Sports Bash here on the Governor's Comedy Club podcasts channel on YouTube and also on Facebook. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. And this segment of Sports Bash is presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. It is FOP Day. Friends of Peter. Rob from Lake Success, otherwise known as Rob Freed, is in, an avid phone caller to sports radio shows here in New York, has called this show many times, and we've been talking about this, I think, for decades. We were going to try and work this out, where Rob was going to come in and bring some of his memorabilia in, and we're going to finish up on the memorabilia and get to some other stuff before we say goodbye at 2 o'clock or a little after 2 o'clock. We're up to some Islander stuff. By the way, before Rob shows off what he's got, I'm going to the Islanders Winnipeg game tonight. If for no other reason, I was invited to go to an event which is terrific. The Islanders do this every year, and I'll be writing a story about it for my Islanders blog on WFAN.com. You'll see it tomorrow. The Islanders are having Women in Sports Night tonight, and they have a very distinguished panel of women who have just tremendous careers in sports. Shannon Hogan, the Islanders host, intermission pre and post game host, is going to moderate it, and they have a who's who of women who have such important roles in sports these days. And we'll recap it on the show on Thursday, but I'll have a story up on WFAN.com tomorrow morning. So Rob, you have some stuff that
Yeah.
may be of interest to me.
Well, number one, you had Kenny Morrow on last week, and I know
Yes.
with the Olympic hockey, the American team played at Madison Square Garden early February.
Days before they tied Sweden.
Right, they
actually
went to the Garden as a last tune-up game, and the Russians killed them. And this is the program.
10-3.
It's a very
10-3.
It's a very interesting program. It's got the whole team in there, and this is actually on Madison
Now, how did
Square
you?
Garden.
Now, so did Ranger season ticket holders get the right?
No,
to
at that time
game?
I wasn't a Ranger. I was a Ranger season ticket holder in the '90s, so I did
90s.
go to the Cup. I was there.
Yeah.
But I've probably been to 100 Islander Ranger games in my life, and literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hockey games. Probably more. That's the biggest sport. But you know what? The Islanders did something really interesting in '72. I went to one game at the Coliseum in '72, and the program. This is really a beautiful cover. It's like a painting.
Yeah.
With the Rangers. This is the first edition, very, very early, and they changed them later on.
Yeah.
But Peter, this I believe is I think the third game ever.
The third game ever. Yeah.
And
look at that, $1. That first
it was
Islanders
$1,
program,
and I want to tell you
$1.
something. The only difference between this program and this program is which is the same cover. This is the very first game in the Islanders' history.
Right, that's got an
against the Flames.
insert in the middle. It's got
Right.
Islanders and Atlanta
And the Flames. But Peter, because you're such a fan, and I have so much stuff, and I don't even care about it anymore. It's like I just want to get rid of a lot of stuff. I give stuff away to people. It's just something I get joy out of.
Oh, thank you.
And I know you're such a fan. This is for you.
Oh, wow.
1972, first year. One of the earliest games ever. I don't think they won that game. They probably lost.
And
but-
they lost a lot of games that
they
first
won
year.
12 games that year.
Oh, my God, look at this.
That is for you. And I really think
Oh, by the way, the second page inside the program's got a really nice shot of the old Nassau Coliseum with the white exterior.
and they're able to walk around.
Yes, and
Back
you're
in the
able to walk
original
around.
day.
You could do that now again because they put in
They put in
when
new
they
ones.
did the renovations in 2015 to 17. They took out those red gateway seats.
Gateways because it was very tough to walk around. This I found that, and this I was able to recently get. I love this as a Giant fan, and this is really extremely, extremely rare. I don't even know the price on these things, but it's up there. These are the second or third game in the New York Giants'
History.
25 season. One of them is their first win ever.
Oh,
it was
God.
against the Cleveland Bulldogs, and this is these original early ticket stubs. I find everything. I've been
Now-
very, very lucky.
Let me ask you before we get too far ahead of ourselves with about 10 minutes to go in the show. You're an avid New York Giants fan.
Right.
They're coming off probably one of the
The worst seasons in their
I
history.
mean, and even for me,
And
as
I
a-
remember the 70s.
And for me as a Jet fan, record-wise, it wasn't the worst season in Jets history. To me, it was not even because of the expectations. But for the Giants, I mean, everything went the wrong way. Now we're into the offseason. The Giants are going to be looking for a quarterback. As a fan, what do you think of what?
Well,
lies
I'll
ahead
tell you,
for the
and I'm
Giants
thinking
here?
about this. Someone who's, I listen. I'm going to get a little angry now and I get a little ranting. I listen to idiots. Not your stations. I'm not saying.
That's
I'm not even
okay.
going down that
You can call
line.
it beyond.
I listen to. I go on X and I see idiots just blah blah blah, and I can't.
You have to stop talking about Sean Morash.
I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about the people that. Peter, I'm 64. I've been watching the Giants since 1968. I've seen over 50 plus years of this team. I mean, I saw more than half their history, and I think I know enough about football and the Giants' history.
Yeah.
I do not want Aaron Rodgers. I wanted these guys gone.
Yeah.
I wanted Dable gone. I wanted Joe Shane. He's horrible. I think he's worse than Dable.
Yeah.
I will take Sam Darnold, though.
Yeah.
I will take him. If they could get him on the cheap.
He's not coming cheap.
I know, but you know what? But I still think he's worth it. They maybe should get Hunter as the third pick because they have so many holes. But I think Sam has got the experience. He had 2 lousy games. So what?
Yeah.
He's ready to produce, and he's a seasoned NFL quarterback. I don't want to take a chance on these young kids. If anything, if I get the next choice would be Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And then Aaron Rodgers as just 1 year, fill the gap. And if they're
Draft the
lousy, then maybe
quarterback
we
and
get
sign a veteran. That's what you need
we
to
get
do.
we get Arch Manning, and I don't know why I'm just.
I
Manning
want-
is a Manning. So
I want the Jets to get Justin Fields.
well, you could have him. I don't want. I don't want Justin Field at all. I would take.
Well, you remember who Justin Fields threw to in college?
Tell me.
On the Jets, Garrett Wilson. They played together at Ohio State.
Listen, in my opinion, I don't like these two guys. I mean, if Cam Ward, look, the fact that they beat
I'm not
the Colts,
sold on either one of those two
and the
guys.
fact
I
that
actually
they
like that guy that's moving up the charts right now. Is it the Ole Miss
They
quarterback.
could take him in the second round. I mean, you know, go get Hunter, and I think he could be a cornerback, a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the general manager, I go for Sam Darnold. If you can't get him, then you go for Russell Wilson, sign him for 2 years, and Rodgers, give him incentives.
Yeah.
Let him have a lot of incentives. Let him prove himself. He'll want to play. And the most important thing is he can't run the team. It's Dable's last shot. He's not going to let him. If they bring him in,
this is it after this year.
I mean,
If it blows up again.
You know, this is it. This is it for these guys. So
I want to get to the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day, and on the subject of memorabilia. It is presented by Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. Here is the question. We'll go around the room, get their thoughts on it, as we usually do here on the show. We're approaching the NHL trading deadline, and here's the question as I get ready to go see my Islanders take on Winnipeg tonight at the, I almost said Nassau Coliseum, at UBS Arena. Should the Islanders trade Brock Nelson at the trading deadline? He is due to be an unrestricted free agent, and the Islanders really can't afford to make the same mistake that they did when they let John Tavares walk for nothing. They could have traded him at the deadline. Should the Islanders trade Brock Nelson? Let me start with Tony, who is an Islanders fan. Tony, should the Islanders trade Brock Nelson and start the rebuild?
Exactly what you said. You know, get rid of him, get some young, and then maybe even go after him.
I think they'd get a
season's
haul.
over.
They could bring him back after the season's over,
yeah.
And they can get a haul. I've heard that they could get a first-round pick, a player that can step in right away, and a prospect. And if you can do that, I think, Rob, if you're the Islanders, I know you're not an Islanders fan. Did the Islanders trade Brock Nelson?
You know, the Islanders, they're real. After watching them the last two games, I went to the game at the Coliseum with the Rangers and
the Coliseum,
you know,
the Garden,
UBS, and I mean the Rangers just dominated.
Yeah,
I mean even though the Islanders played better that game than they did, you know.
This is like talking to Wiz. I asked him a question, he goes off on a tangent.
No, but
should the Islanders trade Brock Nelson?
Then they're sellers. I mean,
I think they should be.
Then you get rid of them.
You can always bring him back. Listen.
If he's a free agent, you can bring him back.
I think. Listen, I'd hate to see him put another jersey on, but you have to think about the long term.
Peter, they're not making the playoffs. So you got to be honest.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying is that to hold on to him with the hope that you're going to get him to sign, unless he's already agreed to an extension. But you just hold off on that extension until after the season. Get something for him now.
I agree.
Yeah.
And getting as far as the Rangers go, I must say I'm really impressed with the way they're playing now. They found themselves.
Yep.
You know,
Back-to-back
hockey
4-0
get hot at the right time. Build. You know, Peter. Every sport now is the regular season is exhibition.
Yeah.
You wait for the playoffs. I mean, like, we're going to go 6 months for baseball. It's going to be Yankees and Dodgers again. And the Mets are going to play in.
I was going to ask you what you think of the baseball
Yankees,
season coming
Dodgers. You're going to have the Red Sox going to be a playoff team this year with Bregman. I think they're going to be, Cora's a great manager. I think they're going to be good.
How about the Mets?
The Mets are going to take the Dodgers to 7 games and lose.
Whoa,
they're going to win
7.
the division. Yeah. They're going to win the division.
Mets are going to win the NL East?
Mets are going to win 95 games. They're going to be really good.
You're sure?
I believe they're going to be really good.
Okay.
I think the Dodgers are still the best team. The Yankees have no one to go up against.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really in the American
Well,
League.
they're going to be without Luis Hill.
Of a lousy league.
They're going to be without Luis Hill for 6 weeks.
Yeah, but you know what? Now you got Max Fried, who's a phenomenal.
I guess that means the Yankees won't be trading Marcus Stroman now that with Luis Hill on the shelf.
They would have to keep him.
You got to keep Stroman.
You got to keep Stroman because he's.
I love this, and you hear people on the fan talking about this all the time. Like, what are you going to do? You have 6-7 starting pitchers. You know inevitably somebody's getting hurt.
Right.
And for the Yankees now, it's the American League Rookie of the Year, Luis Hill, who is hurt, and now look, you can't get rid of Stroman.
You know, you got to keep him. I still think, but you know what's crazy, and I know we're running up against it. Regular season sports in general, it's very hard to get into the regular season.
Yeah, but here's the thing. In base, I get it, 162 games, but you can't let games in April.
Well, they count.
Slip away. They all count.
They all count.
They all count evenly. You know. So, like, you
remember,
don't want to be sitting there September 1st, 5 games out of a playoff spot because you blew 3 games in April with a lead in the ninth inning.
But the talk show, radio, and the internet. Every game is with live and die. It's a marathon, and that's how I attribute all sports. You just gotta
sports talk radio is basically a 24-hour pre and post game show. That's kind of really
I
what
like
it
that.
is,
That's
right?
exactly. That's
it really is.
That's
what it
really
is. Unless they're airing a game, everything because you listen to a Yankee game on the Fan. The post game show comes on this year. Emmanuel Barbari, a good friend of mine, has been named the permanent post game show host on the Fan. But then when that's over, you've got somebody coming on afterward that's going to want to talk for hours about the Yankees and the Mets. The same thing with the Mets on 880. Post game show is over. People are going to come over to the Fan to want to talk about it, and that's really what we've come down to. Sports radio is a 24-hour pre and post game show.
And you know what? I think. It's a great. I remember when FAN. We didn't even talk about my history going back to 1987. I heard the first day. I heard the very first day.
I was away in college at that point. Like we can go a few minutes over. You remember when WFAN started?
I remember.
A lot of people listen. And
I was 26 years old when they started. I'm not just old.
But even after it started,
right?
Even after it started, people were before it started. It's never going to work.
Yeah,
an all sports radio station.
It was lousy the first year. It was really
because they went after all people from out of town. It wasn't a New York radio station. They had Greg Gumbel on me, rest in peace, and Jim Lampley and all. They brought in all these people from out of town, and when they finally decided to go local with it, it became popular. And of course, the biggest reason to this day why WFAN never went out of business was when they merged with WNBC.
Right, I remember the turnover.
And they had Ibis in the morning. If it was not, with all due respect to Mike and the Mad Dog and all the other great shows that came on since then, Imus saved WFAN.
Yeah, it was. I started calling in the late 80s, 88. I don't think I called the first year, but I called them. And Pete Frankel was in the afternoon drive.
Pete Frankel, what a nut job he was.
He was crazy. He was. You know,
hey, that's it. Bring in this Yahoo from Cleveland.
They gave out T-shirts.
Bring in this Yahoo from Cleveland who hates New York, and let's put him on a New York City all sports radio station.
And he would abuse people and says. They took the abuse. Give me a T-shirt. I want the T-shirt. Abuse me, Pete. Abuse me. And he went crazy on him. But
I never understood that.
I started calling. I was living in Bayside at the time. Rob from Bayside. Back in the early 90s, I was a regular.
Yeah.
And I mean, really called a lot. I didn't call the afternoons much. That was more because I was, pretty much working, and I would listen on the way home and stuff like that. But I think seeing the whole history, I look at what sports talk has become and how it's evolved now with the podcast and into what you're doing right here on this. I mean, the evolution from ESPN radio, from Wide World of Sports, from Sports Extra. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
Bill
about.
Mazer.
Bill Mazer and Lee Lennon.
We have to do part 2 of this at some point.
We have there's so much great history that started. That's really,
how about George Michael Sports
George
Machine?
Michael, he did the machine at 11 o'clock or midnight or whatever.
And for those who don't know, on the subject of hockey, I grew up in Forest Hills.
Okay.
I became an Islander fan growing up in Forest Hills before we moved to Long Island in November of '79. And I fell in love with the Islanders watching them on Channel 9.
Channel 9, they would get
we didn't have cable in Forest Hills, but I was able to watch the away games on Channel 9. And who were the Islanders broadcasters on Channel 9? Tim Ryan and George Michael.
Tim Ryan.
And George Michael.
Tim Ryan, an amazing announcer. I mean,
I'd love to get him on the show, and I have no contact information for him.
I mean, he was doing playoff games and national games way back in the day.
And here's a little fun fact, and we have just a couple of minutes left. When the Islanders beat the Flyers on CBS for the first Stanley Cup
in '80,
right? So the play-by-play announcer was Dan. It was
Dan
Kelly.
From the Flyers.
It was Dan Kelly and Lou Nanne, who was the GM of the North Stars. But Lou and Tim Ryan, who was working for CBS, was the Islanders TV announcer. But that day, he was the intermission and pre and post host on CBS. When Dan Kelly found out that he was doing the game, he said, "Tim Ryan is the voice of the Islanders. I'm letting him do the second period." And if you go back and watch the video, and I've watched it many times, Tim Ryan does period 2.
It was a beautiful day. I remember that May day. But, just looking back, I just want to kind of say that the 70s, I know I'm old and I lived it, but I think the 70s with the Yankees and the Mets in 73, I mean, I was alive for 69 with the Mets. I do remember watching the final half inning. I don't remember the Knicks very well when they won it, but I remember the second championship, and it wasn't a big deal. It was not. It was because they won it in L.A. But the Islanders started in that J.P. Parisi game.
Yeah.
That game in 1975 at the Garden, 11 seconds. They almost won the cup that year. They came back from 4-3.
Well, they had that run of going to the semifinals.
Yeah, I mean,
and here's the thing too, and we'll close with this. When the Islanders went through some horrible losses in the playoffs. They lost to Toronto when Lanny McDonald scored in Game 7 of overtime. I cried myself to sleep that night. And then the next year, they lose to the Rangers when they were supposed they had the best record in the regular season, and John Davidson stood on his head. And I remember...
And popping against the boards.
I went to sleep angry. I wasn't crying. I remember I was angry, not... And then the following year, 79-80, when the Islanders won the Cup, if you remember... They started out the season very slow. Dennis Potvin got hurt. He missed a whole bunch of games. And the Islanders were kind of stumbling in the middle of the pack. But coming off of finishing with the best record in the NHL. And then on the same... So they get Butch Goring comes over in the trade.
He basically was
but before that...
He was like McTavish coming to the Rangers.
He came with 7 games to go in the season. But before that, then on a Saturday afternoon against Detroit, and here's what turned the season around. Dennis Potvin came back from injury. On the same day, Ken Morrow made his Islanders debut after they won the USA won the gold medal. They get Butch Goring. They get into the playoffs. They go on a steamroll and beat the Flyers. I will say this, and I've heard this from a lot of people. Had the Islanders not won the Stanley Cup in 1980, you could have seen Bill Torrey get fired. Yeah. You could have seen Al Arbour get fired. You could have seen that entire team broken up. And the fact that when Nystrom scored it, because let's be honest, if the Islanders lost Game 6, they weren't winning Game 7 in Philadelphia. But that saved the Islanders as we know them now.
If you think about this, 79-84, the Cup went through New York. Yep. Even though the Rangers lost at 79, the Islanders lost it. But that great game with Morrow scored the winning goal in 84.
Yeah.
And,
probably
the best overtime I ever saw.
And you know this. By the way, you saw on the show last week, Ken Morrow, when he wrote a book. So the guy who wrote the book with him was telling me last year in an Islanders game, we're trying to find, because we're going to have a chapter about the overtime goal against the Rangers, and we need a ticket stub from that game. And I'm like, I was at the game. So in the book, in Ken Morrow's book, in the center, they gave my stub and my credit to me.
Did they mention your name?
It's credit Peter Schwartz. And at the event last Monday, I went to the event at the Islanders Manhattan offices where John Ledecky's office is. And Alan Krita, who wrote the book with Ken Morrow, took the whole autograph page and did this War and Peace thing where he signed this whole thing. And I'm like, I got to get Ken Morrow to sign it somewhere. So sure enough, where my ticket stub is, there was a whole big block of empty white. And that's where he signed it. And he said, thanks for the stub, which was pretty cool.
You know what? Listen, this to me...
It was one of the coolest things I've ever
I will say, this to me, Peter, was just a blast. I mean, doing this, talking
We'll do it again. We'll have part 2.
We could just reminisce about sports history, and that's something
if you can learn how to run the board, you could fill in for Tony one day.
That's one thing, Peter. Just to throw this out at you, that's one thing I think, and maybe you'll introduce this to other people. We're lacking in the modern world old-time sports, talking about what we're talking about, the 70s. There's a lot of old guys that know that, like our age.
Well, you know, the handful
want to talk old stuff.
Well, the handful of times that I fill in on the Fan, and listen, I'd love to host on the Fan more often. I'm grateful every time they ask me to do it, but I do get that a lot when people call in. They wish I would host more because I'm 57 years old, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I mean that.
I like.
You're a phenomenal host.
Well, but people always call in and say we'd love to have you on more, so you could talk more about old time sports. But I will say this: I love this job. And I really like my new job that I have now too.
Well, you're gonna be very busy. And I think there's a great. I'm wishing you all the phenomenal
New York
success,
Dragons right here.
All the phenomenal success with
Thank you. And you're gonna come to some games, right?
I will definitely show up. I want to get Game 1 program.
Game 1.
You got to make one. We're gonna go.
But that's Well, unfortunately, you'll have a mobile ticket for that because that's where we are right now. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, so we're going to design 4 different program covers for the 4 home games, and then I'm not going to say if, I'm the GM, when we host the 2 playoff games, and hang the banner, because it's been a long time since we hung a banner in the Coliseum.
In New York.
Well, no, I'm just talking about the barn. I was talking about the Coliseum. Like, it's been since 1983 that a championship banner has been hung in the Coliseum. I'm like, I think the New York Dragons are the team to do it.
Well, anything's possible.
We'll see.
You know, you're gonna.
Rob, my friend.
Been
that
a real
was
blast.
awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to do this again.
And thank you so much.
We're going to have to do part
two. And Tony,
two.
Pleasure meeting you. We've talked on the phone, and thank you so much. And
Yes.
I really enjoyed this, gentlemen.
This was fun.
Okay.
And if you didn't get enough of Rob, I'm sure he's going to call the show on Thursday. So we'll see.
So now you get to see me what I really look like.
He'll follow up on Thursday with a phone call. That'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com and Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service. Thanks to Rob from Lake Success, our FOP today. Thanks to Tony Walker, everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown. Sports Bash is presented by TicketBash.com and Ryan Anthony's Heating Service. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage. Where are you going?
Oh, I gotta pack up.
Yeah, you got to pack up. It's okay.
Got a lot of stuff to pack
Let me wait for the credits to run first. Here we go. Oh, my God. By Embassy Diner in Bethpage, Living Legends Memorabilia, the Marty Lyons Foundation, and we thank you very much for watching and listening. For our entire crew, this is Peter Schwartz saying thank you for watching. Sports Bash returns Thursday at 1 o'clock with Stump the Wiz on Thursday. Have a great day, everyone.